My phone buzzed at 6:14 p.m. on a Wednesday. I was halfway through nuking leftovers when the screen lit up with a voicemail from my father. I didn't pick up, hadn't in weeks, but I played the message right there, standing barefoot in the kitchen, still holding the plastic fork. His voice was clipped, colder than usual. "Don't come to the reunion, we're done." That was it. No explanation, no "call me back." Just those 5 words and silence. I stood there, staring at the microwave as it beeped. I wasn't shocked. If I'm being honest, I'd been waiting for this. It wasn't a surprise. It was just still, like a door quietly clicking shut. I didn't bother calling back. I texted him 2 words. Understood. Then I walked to my desk, opened my laptop, logged into the portal for the commercial loan tied to the shop expansion, and clicked through to the section that showed borrower signatures. 2 years ago, I'd signed on as co-signer for a $1.3 million expansion loan. Dad said he needed someone the bank trusted. I thought it meant I'd finally earned a seat at the table, that I was part of the core. Turns out, I was just leverage. I unchecked the auto-renewal box, uploaded my withdrawal letter, clicked Remove Borrower. And just like that, my name came off the contract. I sat back in the chair, staring at the screen. My chest didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt clear. I didn't even realize how much weight I'd been carrying until I set it down. That was the start. Quick note before we keep going. Where are you listening from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments. This morning, I woke up to 93 missed calls. 93? My mom, my dad, my brother Kyle. Even their accountant screaming into my voicemail like his house was on fire. I didn't listen to the whole thing, just enough to catch phrases like loan locked, can't access funds, and what the hell did you do? That's when it hit me. They didn't cut me off, I cut them loose. The calls kept coming all morning, but I let them rot in voicemail hell. I had work to do. Not for them, for me. I'd learned that from Richard. My old man didn't raise kids. He built employees. From the time I could hold a wrench, he had me sweeping the shop floors. No, how was school? No birthday cards, just orders. By 12, I was reading income statements better than comic books. He'd throw them on the table after dinner like a pop quiz. "Tell me what's wrong with Q2, he'd say before I even finished eating. By 16, I was handling payroll in the office while Kyle was out back doing burnouts in customer cars. He'd stumble in late, half high, grease on his jeans, and Dad would just shake his head and smile like he was watching a golden retriever knock over a lamp. "Boys will be boys," he'd say. Meanwhile, I got called out for using the wrong font on a vendor invoice. That's how it was. Kyle had potential. I had duties. And Mom? She stayed in her lane, put out snacks for the employees, smiled through staff barbecues, and told me, "Be grateful your father trusts you with the books. It means you're important." Important? Nah, replaceable. That's what I was, a cog, a warm body to do the work Dad didn't want Kyle touching. Still, I kept grinding, graduated high school, got into the state university's business program, made the dean's list every semester. I walked across that stage with honors and a full ride waiting for grad school, but Dad had different plans. "Come home," he said at my graduation dinner. "The business is growing. I need someone sharp running point." Kyle just smirked and sipped his beer. I should have said no. I had a 6-figure offer from a firm in Dallas, clear path, real benefits, stock options. But I was raised on duty, raised to think loyalty was everything. So I turned it down and moved back home, worked full-time at the main shop, helped set up new vendors, ran operations across 3 locations. Then came the big play, expansion. Dad sat me down, real serious. "Bank's offering us $1.3 million. We need a second signature." I didn't hesitate. "I'm in." No lawyer, no questions, just trust. Because in my head, this was the moment he finally saw me as a partner, not just a pawn. But it wasn't partnership. It was positioning, his positioning. My signature just gave him leverage with the bank. No voting rights, no ownership stake, just responsibility, mine. I didn't realize it right away. At the time, I thought I'd finally earned my seat at the table. I was wrong. The table had always been set for Kyle. I was just the guy dragging in the extra chairs and footing the catering bill. That loan felt like a turning point. And it was. Just not the one I thought. It wasn't my promotion. It was my trap. The shift was so quiet, I almost missed it. It started with Kyle's expense reports. I wasn't even looking for trouble, just doing monthly reviews like always. But when I saw a $1,200 dinner in Vegas labeled Client Relations, I paused. Then another one, $2,000 at some bar in Scottsdale. I pulled the receipts, no clients listed, just charges, drinks, club names. The guy was billing his hangovers as business. I brought it straight to Dad, sat across from him in his office, laid it all out. He didn't even flinch. "He's learning," he said, eyes still on his computer. I leaned forward. "He's stealing, Dad." He finally looked up. "Don't exaggerate. He's networking. You were young once." I left without another word. That's when I knew he wasn't blind. He was choosing to look the other way. 2 months later, I noticed I wasn't getting invites to the Monday board calls. I checked the calendar, checked with the office manager. "Oh," she said, "they've started streamlining decisions. Richard said it was more efficient." More efficient without me. Then it snowballed. My company email stopped getting vendor updates. I reached out to the parts distributor we had worked with for years, and the rep said, "Thought you weren't involved anymore. Kyle's handling it now." When my company card expired, I shot a message to the office admin asking when the replacement was coming. She replied, "We're consolidating resources." Next week, Kyle got a brand new standing desk and a goddamn massage chair in his office. I didn't blow up. Didn't stomp down the hall demanding answers. That's not how you survive in a family like mine. You collect, you document, you wait. So, I started a folder, at home, on a flash drive. I called it Contingency. Every sketchy charge, every meeting I got iced out of, every excuse I was fed. Then I reached out to someone who owed me a favor. Matt, a buddy from business school who worked at the bank that issued the loan. I said, "I just want to know where things stand." He pulled the numbers for me, quietly, off the record. "Man," he said on the phone, "it's not good." The loan was underwater, way behind on payments. Collections hadn't started yet, but the bank was watching, closely. But here's the kicker. They were keeping calm because my name was still on the loan. My credit score, my financials, my signature. I was the insurance policy. I hung up and stared at the wall. They were bleeding the business dry, partying on borrowed time, and using my name like a Band-Aid to hold it all together. I went to the file cabinet, pulled out the flash drive, plugged it in, and stared at the screen. Kyle got steak dinners. I got silence. He got second chances. I got slowly erased. The more I stared at that flash drive, the clearer it became. They weren't just sidelining me. They were phasing me out like I was some contractor they'd hired off Craigslist. But they were still propping up the whole circus on my name, like a crutch they didn't want to admit they needed. I was done waiting. I opened my laptop, pulled up the loan account, and started drafting a flagged report to the bank. I detailed the client dinners, the Vegas trips, the double-billed vendor invoices, everything tied to Kyle's activity. Numbers, dates, copies. No fluff, just facts. When I hit submit, my hands were steady. But I'd already started setting traps. The loan wasn't guaranteed by me, just co-signed. That's the detail they'd banked on me, not understanding. They thought I was the same kid who signed forms without reading them. They forgot I'd been running numbers since I was 12. Before I made any more moves, I called Danielle, my lawyer. She picked up on the first ring. "You were right," I told her. "They're trying to box me out." Her tone was flat, almost bored. "Don't argue with them. Just pull the brick and let the wall fall." I hesitated. "You're sure I'm clear legally?" "Absolutely. You're co-signer, not guarantor. You can walk. Do it clean and fast." That was all I needed. For the first time in years, my chest wasn't tight. It wasn't relief exactly. It was clarity. A hard, clean cut instead of the slow bleed they'd been running on me for years. Downstairs, traffic hummed past my apartment window. I could hear kids shouting in the street, somebody's car alarm chirping. The world was moving, and for once I wasn't chained to their mess. This wasn't me walking away. This was me pulling the plug, and I knew the calls were coming. The first call hit 5 minutes after the account froze, then another, and another. By noon, my phone looked like it was glitching. 78 missed calls, a dozen texts from Kyle alone, 3 voicemails from their accountant, voice cracking like he'd swallowed a panic attack. But me, I was calm. I'd moved my assets into a trust 2 weeks earlier. Danielle handled the paperwork. My credit, fully shielded. The only thing they could touch was their own disaster. Kyle's messages started off pissed. "Bro, what the hell did you do? Call me now. You think this is funny?" Then came the call from Mom. She hadn't reached out in months. "Sweetheart," she said, voice shaking. "What's happening? Why is your father yelling about lawyers?" I didn't flinch. "I took my name off the loan." She gasped like I'd stabbed someone. You can't do that." "I already did." Dead air. "Then a week, you're part of this family." "No," I said. "I was a tool. You all just didn't expect me to stop turning." She hung up. 2 hours later, Richard finally broke the silence, left a voicemail with that signature clip tone. "We built this for you." Right. That's why I was locked out while Kyle billed shots of Patron to a parts account. Kyle's next text said, "You think you're so smart. Let's see how you feel when everything crashes." I didn't respond. Then came the accountant, full volume, fast breathing. "You're destroying their legacy. You just triggered a full audit. We can't even access payroll. Do you understand what you've done?" Yeah, I understood better than any of them. I didn't destroy anything. I just pulled back the curtain. They were already standing in a burning building. I just made them look at the flames. And the best part? I never raised my voice, never sent a single threat, just walked away with the one thing they didn't think I had, the power to walk. I kept my phone face down after that, turned off the ringer, sat in my chair, looked out the window at the city skyline, and let the silence stretch. They'd spent years treating me like a backup system, quiet, replaceable, always available. What they never accounted for was what would happen if the backup pulled the plug. They asked for a meeting the next day, not over the phone, not on email, in person. Said it was urgent. Said we needed to clear the air. I agreed, but only because I wanted to give them the ending they actually earned. They chose the old steakhouse, the one we used for birthdays and fake celebrations. I showed up 15 minutes late on purpose, dressed sharp, calm, quiet. The hostess gave me a knowing look as she led me to the back. Private room, closed door, same booth as always. 3 faces waiting, Mom stiff in her cardigan, Kyle fidgeting like he was on something, and Richard sitting back, arms crossed like a CEO about to fire someone. They even left a seat for me. Kyle stood when I walked in, tried to play friendly. "Thanks for coming." I didn't slow down. "Didn't come for you." I dropped into the open seat, slid an envelope out of my coat pocket, and set it on the table. Nobody reached for it. Dad leaned forward, eyes locked on mine. "You made your point." I smiled once. "No, the bank did." He didn't like that. His jaw flexed, like he was holding back a speech. I didn't give him the chance. "In there," I said, nodding to the envelope, "is my full withdrawal from the loan, from the board, from every single piece of your company that had my name on it." He opened it, read just the first line, stopped. "I'm also tipping off the state auditor," I added. "There are funds missing, Richard, and it's not just bad bookkeeping anymore. You're on your own." Kyle slammed his fist against the table. "You're blowing this way out of proportion." I turned to him. "You want to go line by line through your client dinners? Because I've got receipts from Sapphire Gentlemen's Club in Vegas, real classy networking." He looked down, said nothing. Mom cleared her throat, voice low. "What do you want from us?" I met her eyes. She looked older than I remembered, fragile. But I didn't let it break me. "Nothing," I said. "That's the point." She blinked like she couldn't process it. "We're family." "No, you're a business, and a bad one." Dad started to speak again, but I was already standing. "You'll hear from the auditor soon," I said. "I suggest you cooperate." I turned and walked out. Didn't look back, didn't wait for a reaction. Out in the parking lot, the air felt sharper, lighter, like I'd finally peeled off a coat I didn't know I was wearing. That night, I waited for the guilt to hit. It didn't. A week later, I signed a lease on a loft downtown. Exposed brick, big windows, no oil-stained driveways or shouting from the garage bay. Light came in every morning and didn't leave till after dinner. Quiet, clean, and finally mine. I didn't waste time, started consulting. Mostly solo guys, small business owners trying to untangle themselves from family partnerships that looked way too familiar. Turns out, spending a decade cleaning up after Kyle made me more valuable than I realized. I'd lived through every trap they were now trying to crawl out of. Hidden liabilities, power games, weaponized loyalty. I knew where it all hid and how to kill it fast. Danielle and I kept in touch. She sent me a message one morning after a client win. "You ever think about doing this full time?" I told her. "I am." She called that night. "What if we built it together? Boutique firm, clean, sharp. You bring the business guts, I handle the legal structure. We specialize in one thing, helping men break free from toxic family setups." I didn't hesitate. "Let's do it." We called it Anchor and Iron. 2 weeks later, we had our first client, guy from Charlotte, mid-30s, pushed out by his brothers after helping build the family HVAC business from the ground up. Same playbook, same silence, same sucker's deal dressed up as loyalty. He sat in our office with a folder full of receipts and a face full of exhaustion. He said, "I don't even know where to start." I said, "Good, that means you're ready." Helping him work through it, piece by piece, reminded me of something I hadn't even realized I'd figured out. I didn't need closure from them. I just needed clarity for myself. 3 months later, I opened my mailbox and saw one last envelope, plain white, no return address, not from Richard, not from Kyle. It was from the bank. I took it upstairs, set it on my desk, and stared at it for a minute. No weight to it, no emotion, just paper. I opened it. Inside was a one-page letter, no fluff, no filler, just the facts. The commercial loan I'd co-signed had been fully restructured. My name was officially removed. No further obligation, no thank you, no apology, no recognition. Just the last thread cut clean. I didn't smile, didn't clench my fists. I just filed it. Folder marked complete. Slid it into the back of my desk drawer like I was closing a tab that had been open for too long. That night, I sat by the window with a beer in hand. Light from the city bouncing off the windows across the street. No phone ringing, no pressure waiting in my inbox. Just quiet. They told me not to come to the reunion. I gave them more than that. I gave them my absence. But what they didn't expect, what they couldn't predict, was that I'd thrive outside their shadow. Dads who were ignored, sons who were used, brothers who were always the backup plan. Guys walk into our office carrying folders just like I did, stuffed with receipts, signed agreements, proof of being stepped on. And every time one of them leans back in the chair and says, "I don't know why they treated me like that," I tell him this: sometimes they don't hate you, they just don't see you until you leave. And then they can't unsee what you were holding up the whole time.